Did the winner of the Nadu Horizon Pro Tour cheat their way to victory? The Pro Tour has just wrapped up, but it's not without its share of cheating controversies. Yes, cheating controversies, plural. Which even ended up with one player being completely disqualified. But let's go through the rules and find out, did these players actually cheat? Let's jump into it. Let's start with this match between Bart Van Eaton and Javier Dominguez, which happens to be the feature match for the round. For some context, these players are playing in round 13 of 16 on day 2 of the Pro Tour, and a loss here will knock either of these players out of a chance at top 8, where they would win a minimum of $10,000 if they make it. I'll roll the clip and see if you can spot the issue.
Impact that those will have. Also, you're attacking with a 6/6, which isn't too bad.
Right. The big question is, can you untap with it to attack again? Because if you use all of these resources, yes, Stress Down does cycle, but you are using 2 turns worth of time and resources just to get this Flage alive. If you use all of this and Bart removes the Flage, you've essentially lost the game more or less.
So the big issue here is that Nethergoyf shouldn't have a Wicked Roll token attached to it. Let's break it down. At the start of the clip, Nethergoyf is a 2/3 as there's currently a land and a sorcery in Bart's graveyard. Javier casts Flage, Titan or Fire's Fury and attempts to deal 3 lethal damage to the Goyf with its ability. While that ability is on the stack, Bart casts Not Dead After All. Not Dead After All resolves, which now adds instants to the card types in Bart's graveyard, meaning Nethergoyf is now a 3/4, and once the Flage's trigger resolves, Nethergoyf will survive with 1 HP and won't go to the graveyard and won't get a Wicked Roll token, which would give the Goyf an additional +1/+1, and when the aura is put into the graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life. Now thanks to this mistake, if you can call it that, Bart then goes on to win the game, beating Javier 2-0 and knocking him out of top 8 contention. Now one thing worth noting, during this clip, neither player brings up this issue during the game, nor the judge that is sitting just off to the side. This issue was however brought up during round 14 and was then investigated by head judges. After the round 14 matches concluded, the judges declared that Bart Van Eaton had cheated during his game by intentionally committing a game's rule violation. From this, Bart was disqualified from the event and Javier's loss was reversed and was given the win, which then helped him land his top 8 spot. Now looking at the Magic Infraction Procedure Guide, game rule violations should only receive a warning. So how is it that Bart was DQ'd? There's a couple of things we need to look at. First, the Pro Tour is a professional rules level tournament, which, if you'd like to learn more about what that means, check out this video here. At Professional REL, players are held to the highest standards of play. Bart is a long-term Magic player, more on his history shortly, and this is not his first competitive event. So it stands to reason that he knows how his cards interact with one another, especially someone as seasoned as him. Every pro knows about not bolting the 2/3 Goyf. Secondly, we need to look at Magic Tournament Rules Section 5.1, Cheating. Cheating occurs when a person breaks a rule, is aware that they are doing so, and is attempting to gain an advantage from their action. Nethergoyf gaining an additional +1/+1 is already an advantage, but that Drain ability actually went on to secure Bart the win for the game. Later on during the game, we find Javier on 3 life staring down a Sheoldred and that same Goyf with the Wicked Roll token. When Bart makes a lethal swing with Nethergoyf, Javier is forced to block and trade, putting Javier down to 2 thanks to that Wicked Roll aura. And then they lose to the 2 life trigger from Sheoldred. Again, an advantage was definitely gained here. So looking at the facts that are publicly available, the judges 100% made the correct call here. Not to mention, at the event, the judges interviewed both players. And just to clarify, for those who don't know, Bart has a history of cheating in paper MTG, and quite frankly, should be banned from competitive play. The biggest problem with cheaters is we only know about the times they get caught. Did Bart pull some other BS during some earlier rounds? We'll never know. Our next contentious moment in the Pro Tour features once again Javier Dominguez and 2023's Player of the Year, Simon Nielsen. This match is the first round of top 8, the quarterfinals. Javier is currently winning the round 2-1 and only needs to win one more to take the set. Let's jump to the clip. We're in Javier's turn 4 and they've just cast the One Ring. Simon then goes to cast Endurance at the end of Javier's turn. During Simon's turn 4, after exiling the One Ring with Haywire Might and some discussions about life total, Simon cast Sun Cleanser, and with Sun Cleanser's second ability, they target Javier. Can you see the issue here? Javier had just cast the One Ring during their turn, meaning they should have protection from everything, meaning Javier cannot be targeted by Sun Cleanser. Now, while Sun Cleanser only removes a single energy from Javier, and this doesn't seem like much, this actually cost Javier the game. Sun Cleanser says, target opponent loses all counters. That player can't get counters for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. Now, because this ability resolved, Javier can no longer cast Wrath of the Skies as it no longer gains him energy counters and he can't destroy the 3 creatures staring him down. Simon then goes on to win this game and the next, knocking Javier out of the tournament. Now, lots of people have grabbed their pitchforks and immediately called out Simon for cheating, but let's go over the rules and see if that's actually the case. Most people are pointing to Simon for illegally targeting Javier with Sun Cleanser, and then pointing out how Simon knew what he was doing was wrong due to the fact he doesn't attack with his creatures, and he appears to laugh at the situation. Now, even if that was true, and Simon knew that Javier should have protection from everything, it's not actually Simon's responsibility to let Javier know that. There's 2 things we need to look at here, and they both fall under IPG Section 2.1 Gameplay Error, Missed Triggers. To clarify, we do have a missed trigger here, as the One Ring says, when the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. Triggered abilities are denoted by when, whenever, and at. So firstly, how do we know that Javier has missed their trigger? Some people would argue that Javier needed to announce it when the One Ring entered play, but that's actually not true. Under section 2.1, it defines a missed trigger as the player controlling the ability doesn't demonstrate awareness of the trigger's existence by the first time that it would affect the game in a visible fashion. The section then goes on to give 4 examples, and the one we care about is the 4th. A triggered ability that affects the game in a non-visible way. The controller must make the change known by the first time the change has an effect on the visible game state. In this game, the first time where the ring's protection from everything ability comes into play is when Simon targets Javier with Sun Cleanser's ability. It was at this point Javier should have mentioned the protection ability, and the game would have been rewound to the point after Sun Cleanser enters the battlefield, and Simon would have to choose Sun Cleanser's other ability. To further confirm Simon hasn't cheated, all we need to do is look at the last paragraph from the section about cheating. All of these are examples of a player intentionally violating game rules, tournament rules, or lying. While this is not an exhaustive list, it covers many of the most common cases. One thing that is noticeably absent, not pointing out your opponent's missed trigger. This is never cheating, even if you point out the missed trigger at a point in time that is beneficial to you. So once again, although it looked scummy, Simon in no way cheated, and technically Javier broke the rules here. But there is no penalty that needed to be applied for this instance of missed triggers. There is one final situation that we need to talk about, which once again involves Javier and Simon in this same match, the Endurance situation. During Game 5, Simon casts Endurance, putting Javier's graveyard to the bottom of his deck. When Javier does this, he places his deck on the table and then Simon picks up the deck and goes to shuffle it. Javier calls out for him to stop.
One comes into play.
No, Simon.
Oh, Simon, no, don't do it.
No. Can you? Okay.
Oh dear.
Yes. If you didn't shuffle, they went on the bottom. Folks,
You can just see.
All right, I have protection.
folks, I cannot iterate this enough. Modern is a very, very complicated format.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's hard to tell if the deck was shuffled or not, but was Simon actually trying to cheat here? Absolutely not. I believe this was just an honest mistake after 2 grueling days of Magic. Shuffling your opponent's deck when it's presented to you is something that you have to do at a competitive level. The way that Javier places his deck in the middle of the table is very similar to presenting the deck for shuffling. One of the key things to note with the rules about cheating is that all 3 prerequisites must be met in order to deem that someone has cheated. Number 1, someone has broken a rule. Number 2, they've done so intentionally. And 3, they've attempted to gain an advantage from the situation. In this case, Simon has definitely broken a rule, randomly shuffling his opponent's deck. Did he do so intentionally? It's extremely unlikely. Javier is not only his teammate for the tournament, he is also a friend. And again, it definitely feels like a small mistake after 2 full days of competitive Magic. And finally, did they attempt to gain an advantage from this situation? Well, shuffling a few cards into his opponent's deck when they're meant to be on the bottom of the library really gives neither player the edge here. It could benefit Simon, but it could easily benefit Javier. Again, I think this is just an honest mistake and a standard games rule violation. No cheating involved. So, that's the Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour drama. What do you think? Did Bart deserve his DQ? As always, if you learned something, be sure to like the video and subscribe, because if you don't, poor Javier will get paired up against another cheater. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.